Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone can hear me okay. I am Autumn Faulkner. On behalf of my co-chair, Emily Sanford, and the ALCTS Membership Committee, we want to welcome you to the virtual version of ALCTS 101. This is a picture of me and Emily at a 5K walk at Michigan State where we work. We've actually got two other folks from MSU also on the membership committee, so I guess we're just trying to take over the world here. But we are here to offer you an orientation to ALCTS, which is an awesome association. We want to give you a leg up on getting involved with ALCTS. Before we get started, though, just some housekeeping. So everybody's mics are muted to keep audio feedback to a minimum. But please feel free to submit a comment or a question in the chat box anytime throughout this program. We're here to provide you with information and to gather any input you have. So please feel free to do that. And we are also making a recording of this webinar, which will be available to you later, so you can grab all the links that we've included and revisit anything we cover. Okay. So let's take a quick look at our agenda here. We're going to keep it pretty informal. We want to give you a chance to hear from some ALCTS officers and members. They're going to chat about different aspects of what we do. In the first half of the webinar, we're just going to give you a rundown of how ALCTS is organized, how you can join, how you can volunteer, what kinds of events we're offering this year. And then we have some questions for you. We'd really love to hear your thoughts about professional involvement, what's going on with you in your job search or your work situation, what kind of support you'd really like from ALCTS. And then we've scheduled a little break after that discussion. So this isn't the longest webinar in the world, but we will go past an hour, and I don't want to keep you tied to your computers for that long without a chance to stretch or grab some caffeine. And then after the break, we're going to look at some highlights from the recent midwinter conference and get some info about our new mentorship program, which is off to a really excellent start. And then again, we've built in more time for questions at the end. Anything that occurs to you, anything you're wondering about, we're happy to answer. So the first thing to do is we'll take a look at how ALCTS is organized. And I apologize for the teeny text on this organizational chart. We've got quite a list of different groups here. ALCTS is a group of more than 3,000 members. We have a board, of course, and some general committees and award juries that don't really belong to a particular section. But then we've got 5 different sections for our members, and they support the various types of work that happen in collections and technical services. So each section, you can see here, contains numerous committees, interest groups, all dedicated to very specific aspects of that section's work. So for instance, we've got an interest group in the acquisition section for acquisitions managers and vendors. And then a committee in the preservation and reformatting section about preservation standards. So there is a wide range of involvement opportunities here at ALCTS, depending on the work you're doing, or the skills you want to learn, or the peers you want to connect with. So tons and tons of ways to get involved. Probably the first thing to do, if you want to learn more about what ALCTS and its mini groups are up to, is to follow us online. And here are all the ways to do that. Social media, of course, but we have a ton of great content on our Connect space, which is a sort of collaborative platform for our members. Our groups do a lot of work, and they post documents and presentations and all that good stuff on Connect, which is accessible to ALCTS members. The ALCTS Central email listserv is also an excellent resource for ALCTS updates. And then the YouTube channel has a huge selection of webinars on different practical, professional topics, and those are available to anyone. So the recording of this webinar will be posted there shortly, and then the paid instructional webinars that ALCTS offers all the time throughout the year are generally posted there about 6 months later. So that's an excellent resource too. And then finally, I just want to mention the ALCTS New Members Interest Group. That's another great way to get started with ALCTS involvement. This group does a lot of fun and helpful stuff, and our speaker, Rachel Turner, is going to mention and makes details in the portion of her talk. So you'll hear a little bit more about that shortly. For now, I'm going to actually turn the mic over to Carrie, our amazing director. She's going to tell you some more specifics about getting involved.
Thanks, Autumn. My name is Carrie Cassio. I am the Executive Director of ALCTS, and you can find me online pretty easily. I am on Twitter at Carrieberry. I also have posted here a little picture of my dog. That is Violet. She's a chocolate lab mix, and if you follow me online, you will see many pictures of her. So getting involved with ALCTS, there's a couple different options for you. The biggest thing is we ask if you have the time and the energy. It doesn't take a lot of your time and energy, but it does take some. Depending on what you choose to do, you can volunteer with us. So we have a volunteer form online. It's currently open, and our appointing officers are currently filling those slots. The appointment process, the official appointment process, runs through May. And what it usually is a 2-year commitment to work on a committee of the association, whether it be at the division level or at a section level. So you have those choices. You can go both ways, either way. People do fill in slots on both sides. I want you to know that you don't have to attend conferences in order to serve on a committee. We do most of our work virtually between conferences. So there was that kind of holdover people still sometimes have in their mind that they have to be able to travel to be able to serve, and that's no longer true. So if you don't have travel funds, that does not mean that you can't make a meaningful contribution to ALCTS and our committees. So if you go ahead and fill out that form, please fill it out thoughtfully. Let as completely as you can so that the appointing officers know what your skill sets are, what your interests are. It's going to help you find a good fit. And if you're really new, be willing to take an intern position. Interns get to sit in on all committee meetings, usually get to contribute and collaborate just like anyone else, but it's a 1-year commitment, so it's kind of getting your feet wet. In some cases, intern positions are strenuous. My example for that would be SAC, the Subject Analysis Committee. They're taking a lot of notes. They actually have 2 interns. So there's also some variations there on what an intern really means. But please consider that as an option, especially if you're new to the association. The other thing you can do if you don't want to necessarily fill out the volunteer form, you can stand to be an interest group officer. I've already seen lots of emails going out across the board where interest groups are looking for new officers to come into the ranks. And basically what the interest group officers do is they help plan the in-person meetings for each interest group. So if you have something very specific that you're working on at your library that you're very interested in, there might be an interest group might be a good fit for you. And it helps you network. It helps you learn people kind of in that area of the field that you're in, and it gives you a good opportunity to do some service, get to know some people without a huge time commitment. That it really cycles through the conferences themselves. So consider interest groups and consider committees for volunteering. Aside from that work, we do have other options for you. So we have a lot of continuing education. We have webinars almost weekly. We have web courses that run throughout the year multiple times. And those are paid events. We try to keep the prices low as we can. You get a little bit more of a discount when you're actually an ALCTS member. And those topics really have a wide ranging, again, from, I think we have one coming up. It's one of our free ones for Preservation Week on keeping your family cookbooks and keeping them, up to date. And then we'll have a bib frame webinar. So we really kind of go across the board on topics there as well. E-forums are free. We basically run it on an email list, and we have a 2-day interactive discussion once a month about a topic. We just finished one yesterday. It was about metadata and cataloging skills that you learn while you're doing your MLIS education. So that was interesting. And the next one that's coming up, I'm going to blank, but I think it's electronic resources. No. Okay, I'm going to blank on that one right now as I'm talking to you. Sorry about that. We also have lots of email lists that supply different services to our membership and the technical services community at large. So the So we have Alex Central, we have DigiPres, which is about digital preservation, PADGE is the Preservation Administrators Interest Group, those are well used. We also took over a few years ago the hosting for ACNet for acquisitions and CallDev for collection development. So there's lots of email lists that we do kind of have going on over time. And I just want to say there's a comment from the group here from Chelsea Rawl that as a new selector for history, she said the Intro to Collection Development web course was really fabulous for helping her figure out her responsibilities as a first-time selector of history. So there's a lot of value to get out of those web courses. And also one of my colleagues, I think, posted there, you might be able to see it, that it's the user experience and electronic resources librarians. I knew something was coming up with electronic resources. The webinars that Autumn mentioned, we have lots of free ones that you can see. We kind of go through a green open access model here in ALCTS. So things are paid up front, but after time, we make them open access. So our YouTube videos, our webinars, after about 6 months, we will post them to the public and share those with the wider community as part of our mission for technical services. We have multiple publications. One of them is ALCTS News, and we have the ALCTS News editor on the call here today. That's a great resource for you to find conference reports, summaries of the e-forums that I just mentioned, and other announcements of the association. You can hear from your colleagues. You can also hear what's going on in the different committees. We've done some really great spotlights on what committees are working on. And we also have a great column called My ALCTS Experience, where people talk about how they've worked with ALCTS over the years and what they've gotten out of it. And I always think it's great to hear people's kind of origin stories within ALCTS and to see what they've gotten out of their membership. LERTS, which is Library Resources and Technical Services, is our quarterly journal. That is free to members, and non-members, there's a 1-year embargo, and then that is free with green open access. And then our monographs and guides. We've got lots of monographs out there. Upcoming, we have one on coding with XML for metadata. We've got one on e-resources management coming called Reengineering the Library. We also have a digital preservation title coming up. All of those will probably be out by the summer. We also have sudden selector guides coming for geography and GIS, anthropology, English. And we created a new guide that's going to start out this summer too called Sudden Position Guide. So that's when you kind of take over a new position at your library in technical services that you haven't had before. And there's one that's going to come out for collections assessment and another coming out for video acquisitions. So we've really got a wide range of items that you can use as a member, but I also want to say that you are the ones who create this content. So you as a member can propose new continuing education ideas. If there's a webinar idea or an e-forum idea, we have ways for you to submit those ideas to the committees who organize those. And publications. You are the authors of these publications, the articles in LERTS, the books, the chapters, and you can even contribute to ALCTS News. So to get involved, it's not just attending conferences. There's lots of things going on all the time. And I just wanted to share some of that with you today. And if you've got any questions, please put them in the questions box as we go along here. And I'm going to pass this on to the next person.
Thank you, Carrie. And we're going to hear from President Mary Beth Thompson. Take it away.
Thank you, Autumn, and good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Mary Beth Thompson, and I'm the current president of ALCTS. So I wanted to show you a little bit. I know this is springtime, supposedly. So last week was spring break here at the University of Kentucky, and as you can see on the slide, it was a little bit of a snowy spring break for us. So this scene is an area that's right outside of our main library, and that's where my office is located. Next slide. So I'm really glad that you've joined us this afternoon and that you're interested in learning more about ALCTS. You know, ALCTS provides members with a wide range of opportunities in education, publication, and collaboration in the areas of acquisitions, cataloging, metadata, collection management, preservation, and continuing resources. When you become a member of the ALCTS community, you begin to connect with others from all types of libraries who are interested in and share a passion for collections and technical services. ALCTS offers a variety of online educational programs, as Carrie mentioned. Hopefully you've already enjoyed one of our webinars or an online course or an e-form. Each is a great way to be informed on specific topics of interest and, of course, with no travel required. We also offer a variety of programs during the ALA conferences. Through our various committees and interest groups, our in-person conference programs provide opportunities for you to hear from experts in the field. You can participate in sometimes very lively discussions with your colleagues and also collaborate with others to actually develop those programs and events. This year, we were very pleased to announce the Lois May Chan Professional Development Award. This is a new award that was established by the Cataloging and Metadata Management section. It's a $1,000 award that supports travel to the ALA annual conference for librarians and paraprofessionals from traditionally underrepresented groups who are new to the metadata field. The inaugural award recipient is Trishani Pereri. And Trishani just recently was appointed to the position of Fine Arts Cataloging Librarian here at the University of Kentucky Libraries. Our members also supported providing free registration to Spectrum Scholars, and we awarded registration grants to 2 library school students and 4 library support staff to attend this year's Midwinter Symposium, which was focused on access and accessibility to collections. Additionally, ALCTS offers multiple avenues for you to share your research through presentations and publications. As Carrie mentioned, ALCTS publishes the highly regarded peer-reviewed Library Resources and Technical Services Journal, or LERTS, as well as monographs on collections and technical services topics. ALCTS members are actively engaged in developing informational documents as well. Last year, the Cataloging and Metadata Management Section Task Force developed the core competencies for cataloging and metadata professional librarians. And the acquisition section is currently in the process of developing the core competencies for acquisition professionals. As a community, we're really interested in having a strong voice on policies and standards that are important to our work. So ALCTS members are active advocates for topics such as library funding, copyright, net neutrality, and the Library of Congress subject headings. We have an advocacy and policy committee, and they do a great job of keeping us up to date on legislative actions. Just recently, they posted articles in the ALCTS News on net neutrality and the possible changes to Title 44 of the U.S. Code. We're always happy to have additional voices on topics of importance to libraries and cultural institutions. You know, through the years, I've heard from so many how important networking with their colleagues has been to them. That meeting and getting to know others and building a strong network is one of the most beneficial aspects of being a part of the ALCTS community. That certainly has been the case for me. ALCTS has been my professional home from the beginning, and it's provided me with some rich opportunities to grow as a librarian. Having the ability to connect with a colleague you know has experience with a particular issue, and with one that you're currently facing, is, as the commercial says, priceless. We recently began the mentoring program for ALCTS members. Last year was our first year. We had a cohort of 40 mentors and mentees participate in the program, and we're now forming our second cohort. It's a wonderful program, and it's beneficial to both mentor and mentee. If you're interested in learning more, I've included a link that will take you to the mentoring program's webpage. And I know Wendy and Rachel are going to talk more about this later on in the program. So I want to take just a few moments to highlight a couple of upcoming activities. Carrie was mentioning the next e-forum coming up, and the next one is scheduled April 10th and April 11th. She mentioned it's usually a 2-day event. The topic's going to be user experience and the electronic resources librarians. During this e-forum, you'd have an opportunity to participate in the discussion of what user experience and usability design means and how user experience can be brought into the issues of collection development and e-resource management. So the e-forms are free, but you do need to register. But it's easy to join and it's all online. At our ALA annual conference, we have 2 pre-conferences planned. I'm really wishing I could attend both. One is the Technical Services Assessment, Tools and Techniques that Demonstrate Value. In this program, they're going to share insights from your colleagues on how to successfully collect, format, and present data and information in a way that would allow you to both leverage this data to inform internal decisions, as well as to highlight key achievements and successes to those outside of the department. And then the other pre-conference is called Hacking ACK, Tools and Apps for Better Acquisition Workflows. And during this pre-conference, the Acquisition Section Technology Committee is going to provide you with a hands-on look at tools for data analysis, project management, workflow hacks, and troubleshooting. So if you're interested in a better way of managing searching and order out input, reporting data, or streamlining communication between staff and departments, this would be one that you would want to register for. And then if you're looking for a way to meet some of your colleagues, if you go to the next slide, then you'll want to join us and attend the ALCTS 101. So ALCTS 101 is going to be held on Friday night of the conference, and it provides you with an opportunity to visit with current ALCTS members and to meet others who are new to ALCTS. Representatives from the various sections will be there to talk with you, and they're happy to answer your questions. So this is just one of those face-to-face networking opportunities that happen during conference. And as I mentioned, it's really one of the most valuable experiences of being a member of the community. So if you're going to attend annual in New Orleans, please plan on stopping by ALCTS 101. And then after that, if you'll stay around, we'll move over to a local area and we'll do an after party, which we call the ALCTS 102. And then on Monday morning of the conference, there is the ALCTS President's Program. And I'm really excited about our program this year. We're looking forward to hearing from Michael W. Twitty. He's the author of The Cooking Gene, which is a 2017 HarperCollins publication. His talk is titled Dining from a Haunted Place, and it'll be on Monday morning at 10:30. Now, Michael will be discussing his journey to uncover the history of Southern food in his own family. He traces his family roots through food from enslavement to emancipation, from West and Central Africa to the Old South. His talk will focus on his search through the lens of extensive research at libraries, archives, and plantations across the South, and how he translated that journey into food through museum education and historic interpretation. Twitty is a noted culinary and cultural historian and the creator of the first blog devoted to African American historic foodways and their legacies. And he's also agreed to be this year's honorary chair of Preservation Week. So I hope you'll join us on Monday morning at conference for what's going to be a very special presentation. In closing, I want you to know, as ALCTS, we really do encourage you to please share with us your ideas on how, as an association, we can continue to move forward and enhance your experiences. We very much are interested in hearing from you and for your ideas for the future. So to those of you who are not yet members, one of the most important pieces of information you need to know that is, as a community and as a professional home, you won't find a more talented, supportive, engaged, open, and giving group of people than ALCTS members. Now, I'll hand the program back over to Autumn for our discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Beth. I'm really looking forward to that program at Annual. And thank you, too, for giving me a great segue. My name is Emily Sanford. I am the co-chair of the ALCTS membership committee. And what Mary Beth said is true. We're very interested in making the association a live thing, and that includes engaging members in what we're providing and where we're headed as an association and as a profession, and we would love to have you along on that journey. So here are a couple discussion questions because we've thrown a lot of information at you thus far. So if you have any questions, you can go ahead and put those in the question box. We have a couple prompts here. Is there anything that we have covered so far that you have questions about, the structure or the governance of ALCTS, or how to get involved? Or is there any suggestion you have for improving current ALCTS offerings? Or what would you like to see from a professional organization that would engage you as a member or a potential member? I got involved with ALCTS back in grad school. I'll vamp a little bit here while we're waiting for questions. I did the ALCTS or the ALA student to staff thing, and I got matched up with ALCTS. And it was such an open and welcoming place. I was already involved in technical services work and interested in that sort of thing, but even as a student, they were so welcoming and often open. Okay. Well, I'm not seeing any questions, so that's great. That means we've covered our bases. If you have any questions, we'll have some time at the end, but you're also welcome to email the membership committee, Autumn or myself, or reach out. And the email addresses to do all that are on the last slide. So I will go ahead and we'll take a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back and we'll cover the stuff that happened at Midwinter, and then also a little bit about our ALCTS mentoring program, which came out of a suggestion from members. So it is really true that ideas that you have about what could make ALCTS more, what could move us in a new direction, definitely can come from membership. So we'll see you in 5.
All right, welcome back everyone. So we're going to get started on the last half of our program. And I wanted to do that just by taking a moment to talk about conferences and their benefits. And if you're a student, or like Emily was at first, or a new member, or maybe you're just looking to join ALCTS, you're wondering if it's the right home for you professionally, you may not find it easy right away to attend a conference for lots of reasons. The distance, the cost, what kind of professional support you're receiving from your job, all of that can have an effect. But I just want to point out you can still really benefit from these conferences even if you can't attend. Obviously, a lot happens at conferences that can help you do your job better. Lots of decisions about practices and policies and explorations of new approaches, solutions to problems. All that work that committees and interest groups do at conferences is still accessible to you, especially if you're a member. Like I mentioned earlier, our Connect space is home to so much of this documentation generated by these groups. So you can check up on committee meeting notes, review presentations that were given at interest groups, and that's really helpful. But even if you're not quite ready to join yet and you don't have access to Connect, there's a lot of activity on Twitter that you can follow. And you would just follow the hashtags, and those change slightly to reflect the year, obviously, but those are always going to be the standard hashtags for ALA conferences and ALCTS activity at those conferences. And then there are great conference write-ups you can read in the on the ALCTS news site, which Carrie also mentioned. That's another great resource for staying up to date. So like this adorable kitten demonstrates, connecting virtually is cool and totally doable. So I just wanted to give you a heads up about that stuff. And now I'm going to give the floor to Susan, a former membership committee chair, one of my favorite ALCTS people. She's going to share some highlights from the most recent conference for those of you who've never had a chance to attend and you're wondering what exactly goes on for ALCTS members. Susan, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Autumn, for that wonderful introduction. I love ALCTS 101, and even though I've been around for a while, I still hang out at ALCTS 101 whenever I can, because I always learn something, and I always meet someone new that's really great to know. So Autumn asked me to share a little bit about the CAMS forum that happened at the most recent ALA midwinter meeting in Denver, and that was last month. And I just dropped an acronym, CAMS. If you remember the really cool org chart slide from the beginning, CAMS stands for Cataloging and Metadata Management section. We are one of the 5 sections of ALCTS. And I am the chair of CAMS Executive Committee this year. So at the CAMS forum at Midwinter in Denver, we continued kind of an ongoing discussion we've been having about ethics in cataloging and metadata. And all of us in tech services are going to face ethical questions and dilemmas from time to time in various areas of the life cycle of the resources that we work with. Selection, acquisition, description, preservation. There can be thorny issues at any point along that cycle. For us in cataloging and metadata, we describe, we name, we classify resources and people and organizations and groups. And that is not a neutral thing, as my badge ribbon says from my midwinter badge. That ribbon, by the way, was created by Aaron Leach. But anyway, this is not a neutral process. It can be loaded with lots of differing viewpoints from all the people and groups involved. Not to mention the vocabularies and the standards and the systems that we use have a lot of perspectives built into those as well. So there's a lot of potential for misrepresentation or omission in the process of describing, naming, classifying, etc. And as we all know, we're also likely to face competing priorities that will affect our decision-making whenever we come across one of those ethical dilemmas. So, of course, ethics is not a new topic, but interest is really high right now. The current CAMS discussions got kicked off last year. A couple of my colleagues from the executive committee, Beth Shoemaker and Bobby Bothman, initiated those conversations in our committee. And one of the questions that we were starting with at that time was, is there a need and or desire for a code of ethics with a cataloging and metadata focus? Of course, we have the ALA code of ethics, but is there a need for one that's specifically focused on the area of cataloging and metadata? So the first thing that we did in that area was at the annual conference last year, our forum featured presentations by Dr. Hope Olson and Beth Shoemaker, and there was also a facilitated large group discussion. And the presentations and notes for that are available in our Connect space, our ALA Connect space. Then in September of last year, we held an ALCTS e-forum to continue to explore some of those questions about ethics. But in the executive committee, we found that we still were lacking some clarity on, what our next steps forward should be with this discussion. So at Midwinter in Denver, we featured small group discussions to help us clarify some of those next steps. And some of the questions that we were asking our participants included, what would be most helpful to you in making ethical decisions, or to explain those ethical decisions or dilemmas to others when you have to? What do you think the process of creating any ethics documents should look like? And what concerns would you have with creating ethics documents for cataloging and metadata? And we had just under 80 participants at the Midwinter Forum. We had 10 small groups, and the conversation was really thoughtful and lively. I was tweeting from one of the tables, and it hit me very early on in the process that every single person at my table was speaking up, listening to the others. No one person was dominating or anything like that. It was a really thoughtful discussion that made quite an impression on me. So we have more that we want to share from that forum publicly. Right now, you can see the tweets that happened, during that time. In addition to myself, there were some other people tweeting from the forum. Netanel Ganin's tweets are much better than mine, but you can see the two hashtags, CAMS Forum and ALCTS Midwinter 18, to see, some of that discussion that we captured from a few different tables. Most of the tables took notes on Google documents that we're going to compile and come up with something that can be shared publicly to share that discussion with the wider community. We're just not quite ready to share it yet. There's 10 documents that we have to pull together. But some of my takeaways from this forum, I was hearing a strong desire for guidance and resources on ethical dilemmas specific to cataloging and metadata. We were hearing that people want both principles to guide the application of judgment, but also practical advice for real scenarios or plausible scenarios, and keeping in mind that there isn't always one right answer. We don't want to be prescriptive necessarily. I also heard a strong interest in crowdsourcing this type of work, an emphasis on broad participation, representation, inclusiveness, and transparency. We have recognized, from the beginning that not everyone who's interested in this topic or has a stake in this topic can be in a room at the same time. So there need to be multiple ways to participate. And one of our group leaders summed it up really nicely, saying, don't create something that we're all going to hate. So that's really good advice in many areas. So just envisioning the continuing process from this point forward for me, you may not want to quote me on this because the executive committee still needs to meet and hammer out some more concrete steps, but it looks like there will be a group formed that will have a charge to draft some documents. whatever products that group comes up with, the drafts will be shared widely, and we hope to create a variety of avenues to participate that could include in-person discussions like the forum that we had at Midwinter, webinars, surveys, online documents, online meetings, social media, email discussions. There could be other ways that I haven't thought of just yet, but trying to get the word out and to seek feedback from as many different avenues as possible. So that's a little bit about the forum and kind of the current state of discussions of ethics within CAMS. We would love to hear from anyone about that topic and about that process. If I still have time, I hope I'm not going over.
You're good, Susan.
Okay. I tend to ramble sometimes. A couple of other midwinter highlights for me from this time. Interest groups are always, always, always a big highlight for me personally. They feature timely topics, very interesting speakers for those interest groups that put together presentations. They will usually have open calls for proposals, and so it can be an opportunity for new voices to share their knowledge. Other interest groups hold small group discussions, kind of like the ones that we had in our CAMS forum. But either way, I find that I'm learning about real-world ideas that I can take back and adapt for my situation. And our LEX interest groups and speakers, for me, I don't just hear, how we done it good, but I also hear, how we might have done it, how we might do it differently in the future, or what didn't work, what not to do. And that can be just as helpful as how we done it good. I recommend checking out the list of interest groups from the ALCTS website. There are interest groups that are at the division level, as you saw, as well as at the section level. So whatever your interest is, there might already be a group for it. If there's not, a new interest group is fairly easy to form. One interest group in particular that stood out for me this time was the catalog management interest group, and they were talking about evaluating discovery tools. And that was relevant to me right now because my institution, we're not looking at discovery tools in terms of choosing a new one to implement, but we're reviewing our current discovery platform from a cataloging point of view. And so I got some good ideas from that. Finally, a highlight from this midwinter that I may not have expected to be a highlight for me was the ALCTS board meetings. And first of all, I am not a governance junkie, but I like, it surprises me to say this, I like the board meetings. I like to describe them as long, but never boring. They're always interesting. And something you may not know about the board meetings is that they're open, unless we have to go into executive session, which doesn't happen all that often. So anyone can come and listen to the discussions that are happening at the board. At this meeting in particular, there were some really interesting topics that I think have very broad interest across ALCTS and even across ALA. And one of them had to do with a discussion initiated by ALA President Jim Neal about ALA's organizational effectiveness. I hope I'm getting the sort of the name of that effort right. But basically it's about looking at the structure of ALA, which is very, very complex, as you know, and looking at possible ways to make changes to that structure. One of the ideas that was of particular interest to ALCTS members, there have been discussions among ALCTS, LEDA, and LAMA leadership, those are 3 divisions of ALA, about possibilities for integration and collaboration between those 3 divisions. And Mary Beth has posted some information about those discussions on ALA Connect. I've put a link to that on the slide. And I really encourage y'all to read Mary Beth's post, look at some of the things that have been talked about, and share your thoughts on those possibilities for working together with those among those 3 divisions. because the numbers show there's a lot of overlap in the membership between those divisions. Another very interesting topic was the future of the midwinter meeting. I won't belabor that too much, but that's of broad interest to pretty much any of us across ALA. The board documents from this midwinter meeting are available publicly in ALA Connect. I put 2 links in again to the slide. If you're interested in seeing those documents, there's a lot of data there. There's many documents to look at, but you might find a few that are interesting to you and explore those. So that's all I have. I hope I didn't go over. Thank you, Autumn.
Thank you, Susan. We really appreciate that look into what goes on at the conference, and that's all really interesting stuff. I was actually prevented from attending midwinter this year by some uncooperative weather in Michigan. So I was very appreciative of being able to follow along with those discussions on Twitter, and in other ways I've been able to catch up. But that's some great info. Okay, so we're going to pass the mic on to Wendy West and Rachel Turner, who have participated in our mentorship program this year, and they have some stuff to share with you about how that went for them. Wendy, I'll give you the floor.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So I am from the University of Albany here in upstate New York. Let's just a little bit of background here. We have a formal mentoring program, so I have participated in that program as a mentee, but I have never had the opportunity to be a mentor. So when I saw this ALCTS program come up, I thought I should do that. I should volunteer to be a mentor. And you're probably thinking, like, why would you do that? For a couple of reasons. One, I thought this is a good way to give back. I'm not having this opportunity here on my campus, so I should reach out and I should do it on a larger scale. It's about learning a new role, and I've been a supervisor for a really long time, and there is some mentoring in that, but it's not the same thing. And I thought this is a good way to stretch myself, to do something a little bit outside my comfort zone. It allowed me to build new skills or to build on existing skills. So that was my personal agenda when I signed up for this. That's what I wanted to get out of it. Also, this is another opportunity for professional service. That is something I'm obligated to do as part of my job. But more than that, it's like an opportunity to share my many, many years of experience with someone else, things I've learned, things I've experienced. It's nice to do it at ALCTS because now I'm reaching out beyond my own campus. So I'm building new connections with other people, and that also gives me the opportunity to see things from other people's perspectives and at other campuses. My mentee this year is not in my area at all. And I say area, I mean region, like she lives really far away from me. So I'm seeing things from a completely different type of campus. I'm seeing things from a different region, from a different perspective, and I'm seeing some of the same struggles that maybe I had as a new academic, someone else going through. So I can empathize and I can share some of my personal experiences going through that. And I do understand some of the stresses. What did I learn myself this year? Well, I think it was really important to spend some time getting to know my mentees' goals, really finding out what they wanted to get out of it. We spent a significant amount of time talking and getting to know each other, but also trying to dig deep to find out what did she want from this? What am I giving her, making sure I'm helping her reach that goal. Having said that, I think I also realize it's important to set boundaries and limits, to know how far you are willing to go and what you have time for and your commitment. Maybe that person would like you to attend the same conferences as them and take them around and escort them and show them the groups that they might be interested in, or maybe they want to work on a project with you, and that's all fine, but you need to know what you're willing to commit to it and what you're willing to do and what you have time for, because we all have things on our plates that we're trying to do. So I think it's good to be honest about what you are willing to do. And scheduling time to check in. For me, I'm a little bit on the paranoid side, so I want to I got to make sure I'm really doing a good job for her. I really, really want this to be a good relationship for my person. So I clocked on my calendar time to check in. We have meetings, but I also clock time on my calendar just to periodically send her out an email and check and say, hey, how you doing? How are things? What are you working on? Is there anything I can do? What's the weather like? And just to touch base and see if how things were going and if there was anything else I could provide. It was definitely a learning experience. It was definitely a period of growth for me, and I hope she had a good experience. So, Rachel can tell you the opposite side of that. Rachel? I'll pass it to Rachel.
Okay, thanks, Wendy. It was really interesting to hear about the program from your side of things, because I obviously experienced it from the mentee side. So let's see, can we go to the next slide maybe? So that's me. I've been at Binghamton University for about a year and a half, and I came here straight out of library school. So that was really great, but I wasn't expecting necessarily to get an academic librarian position so quickly. So I suddenly had all of these responsibilities and career questions that I hadn't considered before. And so I needed lots of guidance for things like navigating my career path and picking a direction for my career and for any research I wanted to do. And I wasn't quite sure how to go about finding this guidance. But then lucky for me, the ALCTS mentorship program came up about less than a year after I started at this position. And it was really great because I want to mention that, like Wendy at Albany, Binghamton is also a SUNY school, so we also have our own mentorship program, and my mentors within the library here have been really great. But I think it's really good to get mentors outside of your workplace because while my mentors here are very good, they're coming from one specific place, one specific mindset that I also sort of inhabit now. And so someone from a different perspective can be really helpful with things. So by taking me outside of my institution, my ALCTS mentor became a contact for me and a way for me to start networking, which was really important for me as a new librarian to go and be able to meet people and form partnerships for future collaborations. She also has a different perspective on some of my ideas and problems because she isn't here at my same institution, so she doesn't have the same institutional culture and assumptions as other people at my library do. So she brings me a different perspective from my mentors here. And this sort of happened because her job and experience are similar to mine, but they're not exactly the same. So she's able to point out new ideas to me and expand my focus, which I really liked that ALCTS partnered me with a mentor whose experience was relevant enough to help me, and she understands my job and my concerns, but her role is also different enough. She happens to be a cataloging professor, so I'm a cataloging librarian, so while she understands my job, her job and position are different enough that she's able to help me see beyond what I already experience in my job. And so she's helped me expand, in particular, ideas for research topics, which as a new librarian who has to publish as part of my job, was something that I really had no idea how to go about doing, and she was very, very helpful for that. And so sort of paralleling Wendy, what I learned this past year, which I think she mentioned, is that it's important to set and stick to a schedule because everybody is really busy. And as a new librarian with a lot to learn, it was very easy for me to maybe get caught up in all the other things I had to do. So it's really important to talk to your mentor and decide on, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, however you would like to set it up, but set meetings and make sure you stick to them, or if you have to break them, then communicate so that you can find a time and day to make up the meeting that you're going to have to miss. Otherwise, it's very easy to lose touch, I think, with each other. And the other thing that I really learned through this is that you should keep an open mind and ask questions. Because my Alex mentor is from a slightly different field, I wasn't quite sure what she would know and what she wouldn't know, and so what I should ask her and what I shouldn't ask her. But it's always better to ask the question, because your mentor will know more than you think they will. And if they don't, then, at least in my wonderful experience, they will find the answer out for you, or they'll connect you to the person that they know who can help answer that question. So just use the experience to its fullest and ask whatever question you have, and the worst they can do is say no. But in my experience with this program, which was very excellent, the mentor will want to help you to the most of their ability. So I highly recommend the program. I really liked my mentor. It was a great learning tool for me. I've learned a lot and also made a really great contact. So with all that being said about the mentor program, I happen to be a co-vice chair of ANMIG this year, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what ANMIG is. And ANMIG stands for the ALCTS New Members Interest Group, and we're focused on the concerns and interests of new ALCTS members. So any of you attending this webinar who are new members or thinking about being new members, I know that ALCTS, or any ALA group for that matter, can seem sort of large and daunting. And at ADMIG, we're just interested in helping you navigate ALCTS as a new library professional or new to the group. So we have activities such as Twitter chats that are meant to help new members learn about various topics. So we have things like open office chat hours with the new ALCTS president every year. We also do a Twitter chat before the ALA midwinter and annual conferences, so that you can learn about how to navigate the conference or the area in which the conference will take place. So you have other things to do there. We also address things like job hunting and interviewing, that kind of thing. And then usually, ANMIG also hosts our own interest group program during the Midwinter Conference, which is very similar to ALCTS 101, but on a smaller scale. So it involves roundtable discussions on topics like interest groups, new trends in technical services, networking, that sort of thing. So that can also be very helpful when you're first coming into a group and you're not quite familiar with other people in it. This is a good way to meet other new members and make those connections. And then finally, we work with the ALCTS membership committee to host the ALCTS 101 program at the annual conference, which is a very entertaining and, again, a good way to meet people and sort of get the lay of the land. So if you have any questions about ANMIG or about the mentorship program, being a mentee, please feel free to contact me at my email address here, and I'd be happy to chat with you.
Thank you so much, Rachel and Wendy, for giving us a glimpse into the ALCTS mentorship program. I did want to mention the mentorship application has closed, just recently closed for this year. So if you're interested in that program, keep an eye out for announcements for the next the next cycle, which should be coming up later this year. And just another plug for ANMIG. That's a great group, lots of fun. I got my first, I think that's where I first started my ALCTS involvement, actually, which was Emily Sanford's fault. No, that's a real favor she did me, actually, because I so enjoyed that work and have worked with some great people ever since then. So definitely check out ANMIG if you have questions or are interested in getting more involved. I just want to say a big thank you to all of our speakers who joined us today. Carrie and Mary Beth and Susan and Rachel and Wendy. You You guys have been great. Thank you to the attendees for your interest in ALCTS. We hope to see you in some of these events coming up this June. Remember the e-forum occurring this April. Please feel free to reach out to me or Emily if you have any questions about getting involved. We would love to hear from you. We are going to send you a survey shortly after we conclude this webinar. It's very brief. Just take a moment and let us know what you thought about our program. Remember that the recording of this webinar will also be posted shortly. So if anyone has any questions, now is the time. We are happy to answer anything you're wondering about, any comment you may have, anything that's going on with your work right now that you are wondering if ALCTS can help you with. Can everyone hear me okay still? I see a comment about losing audio. Okay.
No, you're still good.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we will take your questions now if there are any. I do want to mention, just again, one more time, the e-forum is a great way, if you're a member or a non-member, subscribe to that list for sure, and feel free to participate in those discussions or just lurk, which is something I do a lot. They are a great source of information, a lot of shared expertise happening in those e-forum discussions. So I encourage you to check that out. That's a great way to kind of get your feet wet with what's going on in ALCTS. I am not... Oh, go ahead, Carrie.
No, I was just going to say, and I was going to add to that you will find summaries of those in ALCTS News. So if you do miss out or you don't want more email at this moment, ALCTS News will give you summaries of each one.
All right. I don't see any other questions or comments.
Just a thank you from a few people, so I think we might be good to wrap up.
Okay. Well, thank you again, everyone. Do keep an eye out for that emailed survey and enjoy the rest of your day.